Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of CLS Live, a monthly live stream series presented by the publishers of Contact Lens Spectrum. I am your host, Jason Jedlicka, and I get to take you through this episode today of CLS Live, where we're talking again about the Global Specialty Lens Symposium. CLS Live, of course, gives me the chance to chat with leaders in the world of contact lenses, finding out what's going on in the contact lens industry from their perspective and with their insights. We talk about new and future products, the latest research, worldwide trends in prescribing contact lenses, and even bring you updates from the floor of contact lens conferences. And again, speaking of contact lens conferences, we're going to have another episode today dedicated to the Global Specialty Lens Symposium, which is coming up next month. I am joined by two guests as we continue to preview the meeting. Two members of the planning committee, Caroline and Ashley Wallace. Mr. Caroline is an associate professor at Pacific University College of Optometry in Forest Grove, Oregon. He's a fellow of the American Academy of Optometry, a diplomate of the Cornea Contact Lens section. He's a co-curator of the Contact Lens Museum. For the past 30 years, Patrick has served as a contributing editor for the Contact Lens Spectrum magazine. He has published over 360 papers, authored 124 posters, and has lectured extensively throughout the world. Dr. Wallace is also an educator and private practice owner. She received her optometry degree at the University of Houston College of Optometry, where she also completed her cornea and contact lens residency. She is adjunct faculty at UHCO, owns a private practice in Houston, Texas, where the majority of her clinic is spent managing specialty contact lenses and myopia management patients. She is on the advisory board for GPLI, public education chair for the Sclerolens Education Society, and a council member for the contact lens and cornea section of the AOA. Welcome back to CLS Live, Patrick and Ashley. It's great to have you again.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So today we are going to continue talking about GSLS. And again, you guys have a lot of information to offer being on the planning committee. Before we jump into planning committee, I want to just get a little information about your background with the meeting. So this is just your chance to spend a minute or two and talk about your history with GSLS and how you got where you are and some memories or whatever you want to talk about. Patrick, I'll let you go first.
Okay. What a history the GSLS has had. The history of the meeting actually goes back to 2002. It was in the summer of that year that Craig Norman and myself had the idea of putting together a meeting that was going to be dedicated to a segment of the specialty lens market, and in particular, orthokeratology. Orthokeratology was just emerging as a modality. Its use for myopia control had not been discovered yet in 2002. That didn't happen until 2005 with the publication of Pauline Cho's LORIC study. So we decided to have this meeting in Toronto, Canada, of all places, because of the FDA. The product had not been approved yet in the US, so we had the first GSLS in Toronto, Canada. And the meeting was quite a success. We had practitioners from 30 different countries, 350 individuals showed up from around the world, interested in this new and emerging orthokeratology market. And we continued with that theme of orthokeratology for a few years, and then moved the meeting to Las Vegas, where we had our first Global Keratoconus Symposia. And that was quite a success as well. And shortly after that particular meeting, we decided to make it more universal and encompass all of the things we do in a specialty contact lens practice. And for the past 15 years, it's been the Global Specialty Lens Symposia, and has gone through a lot of different iterations over the years. But the basic theme of having a forum for specialty contact lenses has remained the same. So kind of an intriguing history.
And I do recall going to one of those Ortho-K conferences in Toronto and the initial Global Keratoconus meeting as well. So I've tried to keep up with your meetings, Pat. And I think the fact that you had such a great start and the way this has evolved in such an amazing meeting just goes back to you and Craig and your influence in this field, this industry of contact lenses, and the respect that we all have for you guys as leaders. So thanks for that background. And Ashley, take a moment or two and give us a little bit of your history with the meeting. Not as extensive or long as Patrick's, but from when you got involved, presumably during your contact lens residency years and up to now.
Sure. So it's an honor to be on the committee with Pat and the other members of the committee, of course. But my history goes back to 2010 when I was a contact lens resident. And I was told by all the previous residents that this is the meeting. Like if you can convince your preceptor, your attending to let you go to one meeting, this is the one that you have to go to. So back in January of 2011 was my first time attending the meeting. I presented a poster and was just amazed at the quality of the CE, and that there was a meeting that actually mirrored my clinical interests and were solidifying the things that I was learning in clinic. And I've been to almost every GSLS since then, but fast forward several years, back in 22 was the first time that I joined the planning committee. So I've been there for 2 full cycles of planning. And again, just so honored to be with people like Pat on this amazing committee.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So I was thinking about this beforehand, and I can imagine, but what exactly does a planning committee do? So can you guys, I mean, I'm sure there's a million and one things, but give us an idea behind the scenes. What does a planning committee do? How often do you guys meet, and what kind of things do you hash out for this conference to make it happen?
Well, our leader is, of course, Jason Nichols, and every year he sort of challenges the committee to come up with new, fresh ideas. The one thing he and all of the committee members have in common is the fact that we want this every year to be a new, fresh meeting, new topics, new speakers, exciting as we can possibly make it. And to that end, I think we've been pretty darn successful.
I agree. We meet, we kind of give ourselves a break after the meeting because it's a huge high that brings us, it's exhausting. So then a few months into the year, we start meeting and talking about how the meeting went and what we would like to see differently. But the amount of submissions that we weed through, I mean, the quality is just so great. Wouldn't you agree, Pat? It's like choosing the best of the best. So that to me was the most shocking, like how many great submissions we got and how many people we had to kind of say no to, even though the submission was fantastic.
Yeah, so going back to some of the early GSLS conferences, I will say this, planning committee. So if you want to put this, on your notebook of things to remember, I still remember how good the snacks were in between the conferences.
Oh my.
You see what impacts us as attendees, what we remember. Oh, I'm going back to that meeting because they had great snacks in between the conferences.
Okay.
Noted.
We'll put that down on the list.
Right. So Pat, your history with the planning committee goes back a little further, I'm guessing. How long have you been on the committee?
I
mean, you were part of the original, but have you jumped off and on again over the years? Or?
Oh, I've just stuck with it, and they've stuck with me.
Yeah, that's the hard part to believe, right?
Yeah, that's the hard part. This is like a marriage. It seems like it's going to be forever.
So let's go back to the early meetings a little bit. Obviously, the numbers were smaller, but it did grow fast. How has it evolved over time in terms of the breadth and scope of what the meeting has to offer, not only from education, because I believe if we go back to some of the early ones, you had a lot of everybody was in the same room conference, right? Big exhibit or big attendee, 200, 300 people. But now we've got breakouts, and you've got industry breakouts and CE breakouts and posters. I mean, this has become such an all-encompassing meeting. Walk through the evolution of how you came to be from initial to where we are now with the conference.
Well, I think we learned a lot over the years about what industry has to bring to the meeting. At first, we were reluctant to bring industry in as speakers, as contributors to the meeting, and then more and more it became clear that some of the innovations coming out of industry were just absolutely mind-boggling. And we came to the conclusion that they needed to be a bigger part of the science that goes into contact lenses. And it paid big dividends with the advent of silicone hydrogels, sclerals, and orthokeratology, myopia control. All of those contributions were incredible.
Yeah, and I think the scope of specialty contact lenses just kind of keeps growing, and not just the lenses, but some of the surround things around it, the technology, the evolution of how we prescribe. So now you have instrumentation that's being discussed there also, and not just the lenses. I just feel like it's just continuing to grow and evolve. So that's pretty exciting. I love, again, for those people who have not been to a GSLS or not been to one recently, the core part, you've got the main lecture where the general sessions, and the general sessions are what? Those are the areas where really critical, important research and stuff is being brought out that we all really should know about.
Right.
So we're all together for these sessions. But then I might have interest in developing one part of my acumen differently than someone else. And so then we have these breakouts. So it's like having multiple tracks, but just in specialty lenses again. And so that, and then again, we have our sponsor sessions where maybe I need to know more about a specific product, and I can choose from 3 to 5 different talks I can go to that revolve around a specific product. Is that, so maybe Ashley, if you can talk about, is this format working, and how do you see this changing? Is there anything that we can expect different in that regard going forward?
So we played with that format in our heads, like how to change it, how to make it better. Because I found as an attendee, there were so many classes that I wanted to attend that were conflicting at the same time. So we created a format where if you are very interested in myopia management, but there's a scleral lens session at the exact same time, there's going to be something similar later in the weekend so that you can attend pretty much any topic you want and still feel like you've gotten a very diverse educational track throughout the weekend. So I think the format that we have this time around is keeping that in mind, that people are coming with multiple interests and can get everything that they want fulfilled during the weekend.
Yeah, I didn't think about that fact that that it's not just random what sessions happen at what times.
No,
you guys put a lot of thought into,
well
yeah, you put a thought into, Friday at 1:00, there's 5 breakouts, and there's a reason for why those 5 are at that time versus, okay. Exactly. So that helps to understand again why the placement. So as an attendee, if I want to hit some scleral, but also want to hit some ortho-K, I have the opportunity to cover it all.
It'll work out. Yes.
Okay. One other thing I think that, again, I talked with Jason Nichols on our last episode. We talked a bit about this, but you touched on it already with the submissions, is the poster session. I mean, my goodness, when the first meeting started, was there even a poster session, Pat?
Yeah, we had 12 posters.
12. Is it like 10 times that now, and probably 20 times the number of submissions?
Yep.
So what does the poster session mean to GSLS? I mean, I would think that is one thing that it separates meetings from just, educational meetings to a truly specialty defining meeting is the scientific part, right?
Mm-hmm.
So talk about the poster session and how we've come from where we were. Was this the brainchild, or was this always the plan, was to have a very large poster session, or did that just come about because you were getting so many submissions every year?
Well, I think it was an evolution. It grew literally every year. Craig was very big on endorsing the poster session. And part of it is due to the fact that there's some individuals out there with some tremendous research, but they're not real comfortable at public speaking. And so they find that this poster forum is a wonderful way for them to get their work out and everyone looking at it. And it's a wonderful forum for people because we do know that there are a lot of people that don't enjoy public speaking. Three of us love it, but there's a group that's very different.
Well, and I think too that as opposed to a lot of what's brought to GSLS, correct me if I'm wrong, are a lot of case report based, or they're not. These aren't studies of 300 or 500 eyes. These are more one-offs or clinical cases or unique applications where the volume of study candidates or study patients is limited, and so bringing a lot of the material that's brought here doesn't really have as fitting a place. Like you wouldn't bring it to ARVO, for example, necessarily, maybe Academy of Optometry, but again, something that is similar, but a very contact lens based. So I think it absolutely fills a need for our contact lens industry for people to bring these quality cases and pilots and smaller studies to a forum that's well received by the attendees.
Jason, you're so right. I always tell our MS and PhD candidates that all knowledge in the field of eye care emanated from the clinic. And it all began with one patient and one clinician's observations. And from there, it grew. And so you're so right about these pilot studies, how powerful they are at setting the tone for larger, prospective and retrospective studies. Mm-hmm. Very powerful tool, these small pilots.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's great because as a contact lens specialist, as someone whose interest is in contact lenses, I can go to the poster session at GSLS and I can walk through that poster session, and every poster there is relevant and interesting to me. And I'm not saying I'm not interested in the full scope of eye care, but if I go to a bigger conference, I will go through and walk through 5 or 10 posters before I get one that I'm really interested in. And I think that's a different experience for the person who's interested in contact lenses to have this kind of concentration.
Mm-hmm. Sure. We also have to consider the fact that the authors are usually standing there and you can ask one-on-one very pointed questions and have discussion that will really enhance your clinical practice if you take the time to go through those posters.
Yeah, I totally agree. Getting back to planning committee, I can only imagine the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. What is something about this meeting that's different or unique that was a challenge that you brought to this meeting that you're excited to see how it plays out?
I'll go, Pat. I am in charge of the workshops. So I think that is a really kind of I wouldn't say underrated, but it's not something that a lot of people kind of think about when they go, especially to GSLS. So we have 4 fantastic workshops, one on Ortho-K, one on imaging, which will be fantastic, 2 on scleral lenses, and 1 that will be done specifically in Spanish. So I'm really excited to see how those will play out. It's for people that just want more interactive, hands-on education instead of the lecture style. So we'll see. I'm excited to see how all that planning plays out this year.
Yeah, I actually think you're totally right. I think there's a lot of call for workshops, and there used to be a conference years ago that was kind of opposed to GSLS that said, well, we're going to bring more of the hands-on part where GSLS is more of the research and theory. And that meeting's gone. And I think there's still a void that people do want that workshop experience. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that this meeting can continue to grow into. So I love that idea as well. So for people who want hands-on, there you go, workshop opportunities at GSLS. Pat, anything you're looking forward to special this year?
Yeah, I think there are some symposia that look incredibly interesting. One that Craig Norman's going to be moderating. It's going to be related to controversies in the specialty lens field. And we've got some incredible speakers. Mark Bellamore, Katie Gilbert Spear is going to be there. She's a optometrist and an attorney. So it's going to be exciting to hear her thoughts on some of these controversies. And we have Brett Andre, who's one of the world's leading authorities on the FDA and getting FDA approval on products. And then Ashley's going to be on that symposium as well. And she is going to be sort of bringing it all together as to what these controversies mean in clinical practice. So I'm really looking forward to that session, despite the fact that Craig's going to be moderating it. I think it's going to be good speakers. So.
Despite that fact, I do think that you're totally right. Stirring the pot like that, especially for the type of attendees who will come to this meeting, triggers thoughts and ideas. And those ideas then become bigger ideas, and then they sometimes become reality, and they become industry changing ideas. So I think I love these the talks that will be controversial. Obviously, we don't know everything there is to know about fitting contact lenses and whatnot. So love that idea. So as we head into wrapping things up, I did want to put in a request for future years for the planning committee, since you guys are in charge. I think we need to plan some type of educational event at a golf course. Can we do that? We get in like 18 holes and have it be somehow CE approved as well.
Well,
I'm happy to talk for an hour on a topic while I'm playing golf. I think that's something nobody's explored yet. Let's do something like that.
We'll put it on the agenda, right, Pat?
I think we'll work on that. Although I've seen your golf game, I think you stick with contact lenses.
It's all about having fun and the social interaction as opposed to the score these days. That's absolutely right. So, any final thoughts? Anything you wanted to add? Just kind of bring the audience information that will, spark their interest and make them even want to more attend the meeting coming up. Ashley, final thoughts?
Yeah. First of all, if you haven't registered, it's too late. So come on in, register. And I think the meeting has a little bit of a perception that this is only for specialty fitters, people that are super engrossed in this all day, every day. But this is where ideas get started. This is where we get motivated to be better practitioners and to bring really great stuff to our practices. So even if you're brand new to fitting or just interested in a few of the topics but don't have a lot of experience, this is where you will get elevated and challenged just to be better. So I encourage anybody that's interested in specialty lenses of any kind to come to the meeting.
Yeah, I think what's interesting too is at a meeting like this, it's a little bit of a who's who in contact lenses. And I think you'd probably agree. I mean, most everybody there is really friendly, inviting.
Yeah.
So you walk up to somebody and you recognize their name, say, "Hey, I just want to introduce myself." And you're going to make connections and the networking opportunities. I mean, I still have email contacts all the time from previous meetings that I've got to know somebody, and now they're emailing with questions about this or that. So there's opportunity for you to develop connections within the industry that can help advance your own practice as well. So I think that part of it is spot on to come and just meet the people there, So Pat, your chance.
Hey, it's Vegas, and just getting out of the Midwest and getting out of the Northeast is an incredible vacation. And have some wonderful CE, some hopefully good weather. It's incredible.
And yeah, there's lots of great places to eat, entertainment to be had in the evenings if you want to. There's one other thing about the GSLS, there's so many after hours activities going on. A lot of our sponsors will put on things, and again, opportunities in the exhibit hall too to meet the sponsors. So just a lot of fun to be had, as well as getting smarter with your contact lens prescribing. Well, I appreciate you guys being here. I want to just thank you again for your perspectives, your insight into GSLS, the unique perspectives that only you have as members of the planning committee. Again, as Ashley mentioned, it's not too late to register. The conference is January 17th through the 20th, 2024. I know I just registered a little bit late, so I paid a little extra, but it's well worth it. But it is not too late to get in and get to this meeting. There's plenty of hotel rooms still available. If you love contact lenses, or if you think you want to be better at contact lens prescribing, you absolutely need to be there. It is my favorite meeting of the year and one I never miss. So look forward to seeing you there. Please join me for our next live stream, CLS Live, which will be coming up on January 9th. I will be joined by A. Vanderwarp, another member of the planning committee, and we'll continue to talk and lead into the GSLS conference with more interesting perspectives from AIF. So please join us then. Thank you again for being with us today.